is with New Method Wellness.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Stating the Obvious with Dr. D for New Method Wellness. Today's guest is my fabulous friend, Sharon Bell. Sharon is the author of this amazing new book called Caretaker Coach, How to Care for the Mentally Ill Without Losing Your Mind. Look how cute. This picture is so cute. So, Sharon, I have known for a very long time. And she is a caretaker coach. And Sharon has a master's degree in social work. And she spends quite a bit of her time working with people who are caretakers for those with mental illness. I'm going to let you tell us kind of like what you do and how you got started and what was exciting for you to get into this field.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me. First, I just want to say, thank you so much for having me. It's emotional for me because it's been such a long, treacherous road, like a really long, treacherous road. And so I'm really honored and grateful to be here, So thank you for having me. I wrote the book, How to Care for the Mentally Ill Without Losing Your Mind, because I did not want other parents to have to go through what I had to go through. And I didn't always have my graduate degree. When my son got sick, I started going back to school because my adult son was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder and bipolar manic episodes. And he was very, very ill. And he was going in and out of lockdown inpatient psychiatric facilities. And I didn't know how to navigate, help him. I didn't know how to help him. I didn't even know what was happening in my house. What is happening in my house? I didn't know. I was just a mom, single mom, trying to take care of my kids, divorced mom, trying to take care of my kids. And all of a sudden at 17, this just madness started.
So his mental illness appeared around the age of 17?
Yeah, which is typical, as you
Right.
know, 17 to 24. Schizophrenia, that's often the onset.
I have normally seen 19-ish, 20. That's just for me personally, and that's a small sample size, but just 19 to 20 is when I start hearing. Did you notice anything different when he was growing up?
I didn't notice anything when he was growing up. In fact, I have two sons and they're a year apart and they are amazing.
11 months.
Amazing, like the sweetest. They didn't fight like boys fight. They were just like really good kids growing up. And so I think when 17 hit and the chaos started, I was really like, what is happening? I don't know what's happening in this house. I have no idea. And I thought that he was just an addict.
Okay, so I have known both of your sons since the day they were born. And I will say about your oldest son, he was always off the charts smart.
Yeah, he's very smart.
I remember one time when he was 5, I went to buy him a game or something for his birthday, and it said 3 to 5, but the game I got him, I got 12 to 14 because he was so smart. I'm like, he's not gonna like this baby game. And I brought it to you and you were like, Deanna, no. When they say 3 to 5, they mean 3 to 5. And I was like, but he's not gonna like this baby. He's so smart. And you were like, no, you got to get the game for his age. Do you remember that? No? But he was exceptionally smart, right?
Yeah.
Growing up.
And he is
off the charts. But
smart.
As a child, that was the noticeable piece with him that I remember.
And actually, I think research shows that many schizophrenics diagnosed have a higher level of intelligence. I think our research does show that now. So I can't quote the research off the top of my head, but I have read that. Typically, they may have a higher IQ, but the neurons aren't firing correctly or something's off. So now they're diagnosed with schizophrenia. So yeah, growing up, very intelligent, great kid, and still is a great kid. He just happens to hear 12 voices in his head. So he was going in and out. He was in crisis all the time. It was a nightmare, like a really bad nightmare. And I did not know where to turn on that. Like I didn't know how to navigate the system. My kid's in a lockdown inpatient psychiatric facility, and I have no idea what to do. My kid the state is trying to put him on a mandatory court hold, and I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, tell us what that means for our listeners who don't know what a mandatory court hold is. It's a lot of words.
So for, they have court ordered treatment for substance abuse, right? You get court ordered treatment, you have to go to your meetings, you have to do whatever the court says. For mental health, they have court ordered treatment where they also have court ordered treatment for mental health. And also they can put you on mandated court treatment. So typically, if someone's in a full-blown psychosis and they're an adult, they can go into a hospital on a 5150, what's called a 5150, on a 3-day hold. 3-day hold means if they're deemed a danger to themselves, a danger to others, or gravely disabled. They're going to kill themselves, they're going to kill someone else, or they just can't take care of themselves, gravely disabled. So you can put an adult on a 3-day hold, and that's it. And the hope behind a 3-day hold, as you know, is to try to get them stabilized. But the courts can go further and put someone on a 2-week hold. And then it gets kind of tricky because then the hospital kind of has more of a say on what they're going to do with the patient, and they're adults. And so families kind of left out because the patient is an adult, and it's like a whole thing. So mandated court order is a 2-week hold for a hospital.
Wow. And so I'm guessing as a parent, you're like, okay, I don't want to do this. It doesn't seem right, but maybe, I don't know, maybe this is the best thing for him. And who should I ask if this is the best thing for him? There's no person that says, oh, Sharon, you're supposed to do this. Like, you can't call your friends and family.
Right.
They're like, I don't know.
No, they're like, he brought it on himself because he's using.
Because he's doing drugs.
Yeah. Like he must have brought it on himself. So, because he was using drugs, and now, like, whatever their reason is, or a lot of friends just don't understand if they don't have anyone, people just don't understand. And the reason behind the book, one of the reasons, is because I'm here to try to help people understand and normalize mental health. And you're right, people don't know where to go. And so that's where I come in. Because I've been doing this I've been caretaking now almost 20 years and have a lot of experience, more than I ever wanted to have ever, about how to navigate through court ordered treatment, mandatory court holds for mental illness, checking out AMA, guardianship, conservatorship. As adults, people say, oh, they're adults. They need to be crazy.
Sorry. They're going to have to figure it out.
Like I literally have almost gone to jail behind he's an adult. There's nothing you could do for him. And I'm like, that's not going to work. That's my kid, and he's going to die if someone doesn't help him. So you could take me to jail, but first you're going to take him to the hospital.
So I have, I'm a psychologist, and one of the things that I talk about is people are always telling me you don't want to enable them. What about your codependency? And I always say there's such a fine line between being a parent and a codependent and an enabler. And I usually suggest to my family members, I say, if you're supporting their recovery, go to the end of the earth. If you're supporting their disease, stop doing it. So, like, I've had people say, I say, where do you get your drugs? And they say, my parents give me money, and then I go buy drugs. I go, okay, not a good idea, but like, now they're in recovery, and they'll say, okay, well, now they need to really get their life together because we help them get to recovery. I'm like, okay, now they need financial support to go to school or get a job or do something with their life. And now you're completely cutting them out. That doesn't seem right to me.
I think it's really tough. I mean, it's really tough to be a parent anyway. Like, we all know that, right? It's not an easy, doesn't come with a manual, as we all often hear.
My son always says, my oldest son, he always says, yeah, it does. They're like books. Those are the manuals. Like, no, it's not like that. He goes, no, just get the Dr. Sears thing. That's the manual. Okay, good luck with that.
Yeah, and then when you throw other challenges in, like substance abuse and mental health, and as a caretaker, you don't know how to handle it. Like, I just want my kid to be my kid, and I don't understand why is he talking to himself, or who's he talking to, or why is he in a manic episode, running around the house for 24 hours straight because he's manic.
And who do I trust?
Yeah.
How do you know who to trust? I had a woman come here and she said, she called me, she knows me from the community, and she said, my son needs treatment. He's an active addict. And her psychiatrist said, call this interventionist. So she called this interventionist, and the interventionist said, the first thing I'm going to need you to do is put your house up get a mortgage on your house.
That's not the person you trust.
And I was like, wait, what? And she's telling me this, this woman I know in the community. She goes, yeah, she said we should get a mortgage immediately, and we need to go to all, and her fee, and da, da, da. I go, okay, do you guys have insurance? She goes, yeah, we have really good PPO. And I'm like, why are you getting a mortgage?
Right.
And she goes, oh, she said I wouldn't want to go to one of those places. And I'm just like, okay, let's reschedule, like reorganize. What do you need? What do you want? What does your son need? And then not only are you dealing with, people how to trust, not to trust, but also you're dealing with the kids going, no, I don't need that. With mental health, it's even more. I mean, the reason that we opened up was because when we first started, there was this stigma of mental health would say, when you get sober, we'll help you with your mental health. Yeah. And then substance abuse would say, when you deal with your mental health, then we'll help you with your substance abuse. And 80% of substance abuse suffer from mental illness.
Yeah. And I always look at it like this. It makes complete sense to me. Because if I was hearing 12 voices in my head, and some of them were scary and saying you should hurt yourself, wouldn't I want to take a little sippy?
Of course.
It makes perfect sense to me. And so
no one's ever told them, this is not going to help you in the long run. It's going to be bad for your mental health. No one said that.
And also I think that we don't know, we know that long-term chronic use of marijuana, say, can cause psychosis. Research shows us that. We already know that.
We check people in at least once a week for marijuana psychosis. The first time I heard that, one of our doctors said to me, we're checking him in, this is probably more than 10 years ago, for marijuana-induced psychosis. Yeah. And I said, oh, Dr. Kumar, I thought you said marijuana-induced psychosis. He goes, I did. Yeah. I go, what are you talking about? And he goes, oh, it's not the weed you smoked 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 35 years ago. And I was like, wait, what? People aren't here. And now we probably 1 out of every 6 of our patients is here for marijuana, but it's not addictive.
Yeah. And it's not, and it grows from the ground. So it's okay.
Opiate grows from the ground.
And I just want to say that I was a parent that actually thought like that. I was a parent that thought, oh, I'm going to go get my son a weed card because, at least if he has a weed card and he gets pulled over, he won't go to jail.
Or he won't be buying it from some sketchy.
But the weed the weed places, folks, for all of you listening, Purple Kush, Green Haze, Blue Monster, whatever you're calling it, none of it's regulated.
It's not.
No.
I haven't bought weed in so long. I have no idea. When I was buying weed, you just went to school and found that guy with the long hair and said, how much is a dime bag?
Yeah. So it's
$10 back then.
So we don't know. We don't know. I don't know. I knew my son was using, smoking weed daily for sure. And I got a weed card, self-medicating. But I don't know, was he hearing voices and then he smoked weed to quiet those voices? Or did he smoke some bad weed and now he hears voices? And for me, I don't care.
No.
It makes no difference to me. What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
I don't care. And I this blame of oh, well, they use, so now they somehow deserve mental illness. Like, do we say that to cancer patients? Oh, you smoked cigarettes when you were younger and now you have cancer. Oh yeah, well, you deserved it. Sorry.
Or you drink 30 Diet Cokes a day, or you
Now
ate,
you have diabetes.
yeah, and now you have you ate McDonald's all day every day and you have diabetes. Well, you kind of deserve it.
Like, we just don't say that. And I would love us all to get to a place where we take mental health in the same way that we take physical health, and we just treat it and acknowledge that it's there and it's not a blame game, and let's just come together as a community.
Well, I hear people say all the time, like, why do addicts get free Narcan and then cancer patients don't get free cancer medicine? And I say, it's not either or. They both need medication, and it would be great if they could both get it. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
How about let's not, like, I have Narcan in my car. Nobody in my family uses opiates.
Right.
I always have Narcan with me 24/7 everywhere I go because I've seen so many overdoses.
Yeah. So my hope in writing the book was that I can help other caretakers, guide them in a direction. Like, I know for me, I was like, I don't know what to do. I have no idea what's even happening in my house, and I don't know what to do, and I don't know who to call, and I don't know who can help him and then help me. Because at this point, y'all need to just check me in too. I can't do this. Like, I vividly remember saying, like, you know how they say God doesn't give you more than you can handle? I was like, God fucked up. Like, I can't handle this. Like, he made a mistake for sure. Like, I can't do this. And and the truth is, like, I did manage to get through it, but it took me almost 20 years. And I would like, the hope is to save maybe 15 years for other families so they don't have to go through so much. They know what's going to happen in a court order. I talk about that in the book, how the court system works. They know like how to recognize nonverbal cues, right? Like, when my son's super anxious, he starts rubbing his head. That's a nonverbal cue. Maybe today's not the day I talk to him about emptying the trash or getting his chores done. And they know, like, I talk about de-escalation tactics, like, which I think are great for teenagers, just regular teenagers. When they want to start spinning, like, we can just talk a little bit softer and, like, lower our voice. Sorry, that was my phone.
That's okay.
And, like, just use our de-escalation tactics. So all of those, the hope is that we can teach other caretakers how to help SUD and those with severe mental illness or any mental illness and even dementia.
So one of the things that I came up with that you're going to hate is when I love this book. I mean, I couldn't put it down. And I've said that before, but this book, so when I started doing research, there wasn't anything like this out there. There was nothing saying, hey, if you're doing this and you think you're losing your shit, read this book and you might find some things. And I thought, when I read it, I was like, oh my God, I would love to have a workbook.
Yeah.
That's the part I thought you would hate.
No.
But like, if I was reading it and I was like, so on chapter 1, get your posse together. Okay. Who's your clan? Who are the people that are going to stick? So then write those people down, but not only write them down, write their phone number next to it. Because one of the things I tell my clients, all my clients leave here with a 911 list on their phone.
Yeah.
I believe that when we get into stress, our full frontal lobe shuts down. So now I can't, the kind of hormones that are secreted from the stress, I can't. And then I say to myself, Deanna told me to call my sponsor before I go to the bar. And then I go, she's busy. I don't even know her number.
Yeah.
But if I pull out all I have to do is pull out my 911 list. I don't have to call my sponsor. I don't have to find her number. I just pull it out and it says, Ann 949. And I just do that thing. And then I do the next thing. And then I do the next thing. And then I do the next thing. Now I'm a little more regulated. So like, what if this book says, here's your list. Here's your 911 list. Take this out, rip it out, put it in your purse, keep it with you all day with the numbers and everything. And then it says chapter 1, like compared the doctors. How did like one of the things I loved about your book is, I think in our culture, we're missing a lot of women's intuition or even people's intuition. Like you might go to, like for me, if I go to a doctor and they went to Harvard and they saved all these lives, but I'm not feeling good in the room,
Yeah.
it's okay for me to go to another doctor.
Right.
And say, this isn't going to work for me. I need to have a intuitive feeling that you're here to help my child.
Right.
And good for you for going to Harvard, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So like if I had a chapter in each on the workbook and I could just like keep that with me as I was going from court case to court case and hospital to hospital, I go, wait, what is you're in chapter 6. I'll get back to you.
Yeah. And I do talk about that. I do talk about in the book, especially just like it took me a long time because I was trying to just figure it all out on my own, and there wasn't anybody to help. And by the way, there still isn't a lot. There's still a lot more information. There is a lot more information on mental health now, as opposed to 20 years ago, of course. But a lot of it is coming from practitioners. And no offense, but love you. But the thing is, it's much different living with someone 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year than treating someone, once a day or once a week or once a month, however often you see your client. It's a whole nother ballgame, 24 hours a day.
I agree 1,000%.
A whole nother ballgame. So I think that, and I do talk about in the book, keeping it took me so long to learn, don't call 911. Of course, call 911 if anybody's in imminent danger. Of course.
Right. Safety first.
Safety first. Danger to yourself, danger to others. But if it's like he's breaking all the TVs in the house, which has happened on multiple occasions, maybe I call crisis intervention. Or I call the local sheriff's department that I know has a mental health team, and I call them first. So they don't come with sirens blazing, and they don't come 4 cars deep. If you're in Orange County, 5 cars deep. And they don't come with a fire truck and a ladder truck. Like, why do we need a ladder truck here? Like, I never understood that. Like, it's a whole different approach, and just that alone can be so helpful. So I do talk about keeping numbers, and I love the idea of a workbook. For sure, and have thought about it. I'm just doing one thing at a time. Yeah.
But that's what struck me. I was like, I had a friend who had cancer, and I was trying to help her, and there was a cancer workbook, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. And it said same thing your book said. It said get your people together, have their numbers down, just keep it with you, and it's my little thing, because if you're not thinking straight, you're not going to ask for help. I really like what you said about practitioners. When I took the state boards for a marriage and family therapist to be a licensed marriage and family therapist, I got several of the substance abuse questions wrong because they're not things I would do. I would not do that thing. And I've been in the substance abuse recovery world for 34 years. And I've been working in this world for 25 years.
How did I get that wrong?
And I was like, oh, I know I got all that right. And I went back and I looked at the test and I was like, no, that's not what you would do. That doesn't make sense. But theoretically, it does make sense. So what I loved about your book also was it's coming from a personal perspective, but it has the science to back it up. You're not just saying I went through these things, this is probably going to happen to you. You're saying, here's what I went through. Here's the science and the research about this. And if this happens to you, one of my pet peeves is people who go through something and they assume everyone else is going through it.
Yeah.
And there's something that I called authoritative parroting. For example, I might be in an AA meeting and somebody says in their share, 40% of alcoholics have higher IQ. Now, authoritative parroting is me going around to the planet going, 40% of alcoholics have a higher IQ.
Yeah.
I don't know where that stat came from. I don't know if there was any research. I just heard it at a meeting, so I'm authoritatively parroting it.
Yeah.
And it's not true. Well, your book is this happened to me, and here's some research that says blah, blah, blah. If this happens to you, and it wasn't saying this will happen to you.
Right.
It was saying, if these things happen, try this approach.
Well, I think that one of the hardest things about managing mental illness, severe mental illness, or any mental illness really, is that it's so unpredictable. That was the hardest thing for me.
The variable.
Because I can prepare. Like, I know how to go to school. I know how to study. I know how to like have my ducks in a row. I have a bag packed when he's ready to go. It's in my trunk. I'm prepared always. But then something happens where like, you know, you just can't prepare for it. It's so unpredictable, the brain.
Well, that's what we call in psychology the variable.
Yeah.
Remember when the kids were little and they were like, can I have M&Ms for dinner? No. Can I have M&Ms for dinner? No. And then one day you go, fine. Now for the rest of your life, they're going to harass you about M&Ms for dinner. Yeah. And you're like, no, I wish I could have said that. But that's the variable. Like we can't predict things that, you know, in mental illness, the variable is times 1,000.
Yeah. So you can't really prepare for it. So I share stories in the book, maybe too many stories in the book, but I shared stories in the book so people can understand this is what I went through. This is what helped me. And here's some ideas that might help you. Everybody's going to be different. And there's no one size fit all, which is why it's such a difficult illness to treat. There's no one pill that fixes it all. There's no one medication that's going to work for everybody.
Right. Wouldn't that be great? Oh, my son tried this.
And it worked fantastic.
And now he's like at Stanford and he's got 4 kids and he's married to a rocket scientist. Like, you just got to get this medication. And you're like, oh my God, where do I get it? And then your kid tries it and burns the house down. Cancel.
Yeah, so there's no one size fits all. So I just share like my stories that I went through. That's why I wrote it from a mother's perspective and not just, you know, my name with my degree behind it, but also to get the reader here's what happens. It could be gnarly from the outside looking in, I suppose, reading some of the stories, but I think that
maybe because the world I'm in, it wasn't for me. The local community asked me to write a Dear Deanna thing for the local community paper, news magazine. But nobody had written in for the first one. So I just threw out some article ideas. Like, should I mix Xanax with my alcohol? They were like, this is a family magazine. How about like, I was like, oh, what are we going to talk about? Oh, sorry.
I remember I was sharing like one story with one of my coworkers, and I was like, yeah, my son stole the car, and then he tried to drive to Newport, and he doesn't have a driver's license, and he didn't have any money in the car.
Or know where Newport is.
Or know how to get there. And then like, yeah. And I just remember looking at my coworker was like just mouth open. And I'm like, but then he went to jail and I was so happy because he was safe. And they were like, what in the world are you talking about? So it's not the same for everybody. Everybody's different. Hopefully the degree is less, and it's not one size fits all. So
or one medication fits all.
Or one medication.
Or one doctor fits all.
And medication does take a while sometimes. So it's not like take this blue pill and tomorrow you'll feel better. It doesn't work like that. And so you got to be patient. And I really want to help caretakers understand that and like understand that they can be caretakers and moms and dads and spouses and grandmas and grandpas and still live a grateful, joyful life and manage their loved ones who are sick.
What do you think would have been different about the book if you had just finished it before you went to school?
I don't think that I could have. That's a great question, by the way. Yes. I don't think that I could. I really try to keep it as from a mother's perspective. I really try to do that. But when we learn things when we go to school. And so there were things that I incorporated that I knew, like research shows us many people with substance abuse disorders also have co-occurring disorders of mental illness. Like that's just what research shows. Like I would have never known that. I didn't even know what schizophrenia meant, Or
the difference between schizophrenia and schizoaffective. And
right.
Schizotypical.
And so if I would have wrote the book before, I think it would have been probably a lot of stories with not much scientific backing behind it. Like 8.4 million people are diagnosed with a severe mental illness, or 8.4 million people are caretakers of the mentally ill and spend an average of 32 hours per week caretaking. That's according to NAMI. That's NAMI 2020. That's a statistic I would have never known.
32 hours,
which is complete
a week.
Bullshit, because I know I spend way more than 32 hours a week.
But just stop and think
FYI.
about that from not an outside perspective. So I'm guessing most of these people are working people.
Yeah, 32 hours a week, unpaid care.
So now they're working 40 hours at a job to keep food on the table and the lights on. And then, so that's like a minimum of 72 hours a week of working.
And I think it's completely undervalued. Like, I do way more than 32 hours a week. Half the time I'm working, at the same time I'm managing. Did you take your morning meds? Have you done your chores for today? And I'm over here, typing and doing my job. And then, hey, don't forget to, like, you still have chores and you're still accountable because you're a human and you're accountable, which is important to mention in mental health. Just because they're sick doesn't mean they don't get to do nothing.
That's the other thing that I have often fought for in the cases that I've been involved with is I believe if I don't expect you to do your chores, what the underneath of what I'm telling you is I don't have any faith that you can do anything with your life. You should just lay in bed all day. I have no faith in you. And I get that a lot. I have seen some privileged younger clients who've never been expected to do anything in this field, is particularly with substance abuse. And I often say to the parents, what you're saying is, I just don't think you can do anything. You're not capable.
Well, I don't think it serves them.
No.
I don't think it's like I think as parents, we want to just like do the best for our kids, right? Hopefully that's what you want for your best parent. And I think you're thinking, oh, like, I'm just going to, let's just say let's just pretend I have all the financial means I need and I don't have to work. And my kid has a brand new BMW and he's got a substance abuse disorder. And I'm not going to make him do anything. I don't think it serves them. It doesn't prepare them to live in the world. You're not being of service. So even if your loved one has a mental illness or substance, whatever their issues are, they still have to be accountable. Now, does that mean they're going to have bad days and maybe I'm going to let them slide? Absolutely. But you're still accountable. You still got to do, and listen, I don't have anybody mowing the lawn out front. Well, I live in Arizona, so there's not a lot.
Not a lot of grass.
It's not a lot of grass in Arizona. Kind of love that artificial turf. But they still have to be accountable. And I just don't feel like you're being of service by not holding your person accountable.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't want them to get the message that I don't think you're capable of anything. I want them to get the message that you can do this. I believe you can, pay for your own space.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
100% agree.
Tell me something about this industry of helping people with mental illness that maybe other people don't agree with.
I think that, again, I'm going to go back to, some people have this misconception that if they use drugs, they somehow deserve to have, suicidal ideation. Or I just think that, I think that's, as a society, whether that's true or not, should be completely irrelevant. I think everybody deserves empathy and compassion, no matter what. And so I would love to see the mental health community, substance abuse community just be like, you know what, listen, everybody I know has an issue. It might not be mental illness. I don't know anybody that doesn't have some kind of issue, trust me. I have my own issue. Even if you think their Kardashians are perfect. They have their own issues, sweetie.
I think that's hilarious because that's like the last people that I think are perfect. But okay, yeah, I read that in your book and I was like, whoa, okay. Like I was
It's
like,
an
whoa.
example.
I know. I'm just saying from a mental
I
health
don't think they're
perspective,
perfect.
I'm like, whoa, okay. It's a weird example. Okay, yeah, I got it.
It's a
Okay, yeah.
okay.
Sorry,
It's just an
Kardashians.
example
Sorry, Kardashians.
because
You're awesome.
Yeah, I know. I love you, Ken. You're the best.
Yeah.
I do really love you. But it's all like it's all in the eye of whoever's looking, and there's no perfection anywhere. And I think we all deserve empathy and sympathy. And so, what do people think in this? What do I think people are doing wrong? What's the
No, I just think that like something different that other people think in this field. And I think, like historically, the substance abuse field I've been in for a long time, and I have noticed that people are being less punitive and less pejorative.
Yeah.
Less like, okay, well, you need to, because we're finding out that it's not working.
Yeah.
90% of people in jail are there for substance abuse, and jail's not getting them sober or making them productive members of society. Did you know that?
Right.
Like, hello, like that is not working. And we're seeing the way other countries are doing it. And yes, we're bigger than they are, so it's going to be different. But we're starting to realize, personally, my biggest thing is work. I believe that when an addict has a reason to get out of bed and like feel pride in their work, they're a different person.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me with these privileged families to go, I want them to go work at McDonald's for a year.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? No, we want them to, I had a family tell me once, I want them to, this kid was doing really well and they had a job at a fast food place. The parents said, we're just going to pay them to write their memoirs. Like, they're like under 25. What? No one cares about their memoirs.
Right.
And what happened to that they're self-supporting member of our community? I like that better.
Yeah, I think that I do agree that work is, I do agree that work definitely helps. I see it every day. I actually see that every day. One of my sons has some challenges. He's not as sick as the other one, but I shouldn't say, there's degrees of mental health challenges. And so he has a job, a little part-time job, and he will I use the term start to spin in the house. I don't mean like, when I say start to spin, he just starts like getting really fidgety and he's not really comfortable and he's kind of anxious and he's, he's doing what he does, which is not healthy stuff. But then when he goes to work, he comes back and he's fine.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm great.
It regulated him.
It's a completely different person than what I just saw for the last 5 hours while you're waiting to go to work. So, and then he'll ask like, can I call out sick pretty much every day? And I'm like, no, you have to go to work. Like, you have to go to work. But he always comes back 100% of the time better.
That's what I was saying this morning about my own fabulous teenager who's like, I'm just going to stay in my room for 2 weeks. So I'm like, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, and then afterwards he's like, I'm so glad we went to the beach and we went to Laguna and we drove around and we saw things. And I'm like, oh, really? I told you that. But I don't. I go, oh, that's good.
There's like this propensity right now, I think, in society that has like, especially teenagers and younger folks, that they just want to isolate all the time. I'm just going to isolate.
Well, I think that's post-COVID.
Yeah.
I think that, well, for our family, getting stuck in his room, not being able to go to school for 2 years and go out and do anything, he hasn't I think our whole community hasn't come out of go outside and get some air.
Yeah, and it's especially difficult, I think, for some folks that have mental health challenges because they already kind of isolate, are withdrawn, and there's all of that. Afraid of people, paranoid, like peeping out the peephole, paranoid. There can be all of that, and so I try to like suggest all the time, daily sometimes, let's go for a hike, let's go for a walk, even if we're going around the block. I don't care. Like, let's just go around the block. And then I use like oh, did you want to go get coffee? But first we have to go for a walk around the block
Yes.
because I'm sneaky like that.
It's called grandmother's rule. I don't know. I read it in some book, grandmother's rule, that you always get what you want before you give anything.
Yeah.
I'll even do with my own teenager, I'll go, can we sit out back and just sit in the sun for 5 minutes? We'll set the timer on my phone. Well, then we end up out there for an hour watching the sunset and I'm like, good, now vitamin D. I mean, science tells us vitamin D is getting in your system and you're going to feel better about life. But those little, when I work with clients, the first thing I do is get them out of the house, not inpatient, but like people that come in from the outside.
Right.
How much are you getting outside? Can you get outside every day? Can that be your only homework this week?
Yeah.
And like, there have been times when people like, I'll write them a script to walk around the lake every day and they'll fire me in a month. They're like, yeah, I feel better. I don't need meds. I don't need anything. I'm just walking around the lake every day. Like, okay, good. Great.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
So
Not the best
funny.
business move, but definitely good.
Also, I want to say, like, it's so fun talking to you too, because, like, 17 years ago or something, I could barely get out of bed myself. I was so, like, I thought for sure my son was going to die, and probably he was. I did not know where to turn, who to ask for help. I would be calling like nurses stations in emergency rooms. Like, my son is like, he won't eat and I don't know what to do. And they're like, oh, just take him to the emergency room. I'm like, he's not gonna get in the car and go to the emergency
Or
room.
eat there.
Or eat there. And like, I just didn't know where to go. And even though it was a long time ago, I never would have thought I would be able to sit here and have a conversation and laugh and joke and be like, it's so funny. Like, I was like, check me in. I can't do this. Like, I never thought I would be able to have this conversation and laugh and joke. And the hope is that other caretakers can find, like, yeah, you can laugh and joke and maybe, laugh with your loved one and still caretake and still live a happy, joyous life. Absolutely.
What is one question that you wish I would have asked and how would you answer it?
Well, I think I just probably asked myself that one question.
See how smart you are.
Probably, why did I write the book? Like, the book isn't just written like, here are some tips for caretakers. Here are 10 tips.
Good luck
for caretakers.
10 tips for caretakers whose sons are in prison and psych unit for 2 weeks. And yeah, the police hate you.
The police, let me tell you a funny story really quick. The other day, there was a knock on the door and Jay, my daughter, turned around and said, that sounds like a police are at the door. And I'm like, it's really sad that my 17-year-old.
Cop knock.
No, it's a cop knock.
Cop knock.
Because
I'm a drug addict. I know cop knock.
Right? It's not the Jehovah's Witness coming to
Our producer is nodding her head.
I know the cop knock.
My 17-year-old knows a cop.
Stop it.
And someone.
And we're the professionals.
Right.
That's scary. You should be scared.
And my adult son is sitting on the grass. The garage door is open and he's smoking his cigar, and someone has called the police in my middle class, mainly white neighborhood, for lack of better words. Someone has called the police because there's a crackhead on my front lawn smoking crack. And the police come to the door and my daughter's like, it sounds like a police dog. Oh God. And I'm like, open the door and they're like, yeah, sorry, we just got a call that someone's smoking crack. I'm like, A, if he was smoking crack, wouldn't he be rummaging through the garage right now that's open? Like, and B, they're like, yeah, we're sorry. They're super nice, by the way. I support my local sheriff department.
For sure.
They're always really nice. And
they're always amazing when they come here.
Yeah.
They're always just here to, in my experience, here to help. And I've had like, sex traffic victims.
Yeah.
And I always tell them before, you got to be extra careful with this person because they're highly traumatized and they walk in real slow. They look at me, they ask me to ask them questions. And my experience in that arena has been amazing.
Yeah, and mine is well, I've had back in the day when we didn't have as much, communities didn't talk, we didn't have conversations like this about mental health for sure. I've had, officers come to my house and say like, how much force do you want us to use?
Oh God.
And I'm like, okay, you're the wrong guy to come in my house. Like, you're not gonna come. You got to call your sergeant, because if you're asking me that question, you're the wrong guy.
Good for you.
Like, absolutely, you're the wrong guy.
That's such a courageous thing to say.
But that was a long time ago. Officers don't come, like in my experience now, they don't come to the house now. Now, if I have to call or someone calls, it's a mental health thing, they have much better training now. And I feel so grateful that people don't have to kind of go through it the whole way. We learn as we go, right? Mm-hmm. For sure, we learn as we go. Mm-hmm. And so the question would be like, why did I write the book? I wrote the book because I don't want other people to have to do the hard way.
So in one of the support groups that I go to, we say you will not regret the past or wish to shut the door on it. You'll see how your experience can benefit others. I'm not saying we don't regret the past and want to shut the door. I'm just saying I do see, we'll get that part later. But I do see how my experience can benefit others. And I have held on to that for dear life. That is like that line itself is what I carry with me from day to day with everything going on in my world.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, it was such a treacherous road. It was such a difficult road for so many years. Like, I feel like I went probably like 5 or 6 years. The early years are a big blur, but like was zero sleep. I didn't have my hair combed, and I didn't have makeup on, and I barely got out of bed. And I only went to work because I had to. I had kids to feed. But if I could have stayed in bed, I would have never got out of bed. And also, and when I did roll out of bed, I rolled out of bed and went to work. Like, I was lucky enough to work in an office where I didn't have to look professional, and I didn't. I was barely getting by. And so I think now we've come like such a long way where other caretakers can like I said, like hopefully pass on some of this information. And they get like, hey, I can go out and have a good time for an hour, and that is still going to be at the house when I get back. And it's okay to self-care for an hour or 2 hours, or what I'm going to go away for the weekend, and I'm going to go out of town for a couple of days. And if my house burns down while I'm gone, well, I'm sure to have insurance before I leave. That's just the way it is.
I just recently, went through some stuff. And I remember telling somebody, I feel like so terrible enjoying myself right now, knowing someone I love is struggling.
Yeah.
How could I just be like happy to be with friends and eating a good dinner and when this person I love so much is struggling? Well, one, I don't really know what they're going through because I've never been through it. Mm-hmm. I really don't know the depth of it. So like whatever I put onto it, my projection is going to be different.
Right.
And two, the better I do this, the better I'll be there for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% believe in, I talk about self-care in the book, but for a long time, I didn't even know what self-care was. Mm-hmm. I thought self-care was getting out of bed. Like, I did it today. I got out of bed. Yay for me.
Good job.
Or like doing something that made me feel good. Like, let's say, just go get your nails done, and then stressed out all for that whole hour. Like, oh my God, what's happening at my house? I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be spending money. That's also not self-care. So, figure out what works for you, because it took me years to learn. If you don't take care of yourself, you absolutely can't take care of anyone else. Bottom line, self-care number one. 100%.
I read an article once that said in France, moms don't like drive their kids to tennis lesson and Music and Me and all that stuff. They're more like, oh, I'm getting my nails done. You want to go there? Get a ride. And I was like, what? Because at the time I was like a taxi, and I was like, whatever they need, and, new cleats and my whole life was that. And I'm reading this article going, where is this magic place called France where women can get facials? And they just, they're not slaves to their job. It was just blew me away that this was happening in the world.
What's so funny is I'm from California, you know that. And I've lived in Orange County like my whole life. And I moved to Arizona about 5 years ago. One of the reasons I moved was because of my son. We needed to have room and space for him to, go through what he needed to go through and have room and space to do that, which was not in my price range in California. So anyway, I moved to Arizona, and people like their little kids walk to school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh my gosh, how old is that child? They're like 5 or 6 or 7 maybe, and they're walking to school by themselves. I'm like standing out there like, that child is way too young to do this.
Oh my God.
Because in California, if your school is across the street, the parents drive up there.
Right, or walk them there. But they're right there. Yeah, that's not a thing.
That was so funny. That's one of the things in Arizona. I'm like, that kid's too little to walk. Where are their parents? Oh my God.
Sharon, tell me who you think we should interview next.
I think that I have a couple suggestions for you.
Yes, Banana. You ready? I gotta stop calling you that in public.
I don't know if you are aware of Kay Warren. Saddleback Church in Laguna.
Mm-hmm.
Kay Warren has a big Facebook following and a big community following for mental illness. She's very vocal about the challenges her family has gone through with her son, who eventually ended up committing suicide.
I did know that story.
And she's very vocal about that. I'm not.
Yeah. And a lot of our clients read The Purpose Driven Life.
Mm-hmm. And Kay especially is very advocates for mental illness, but also, so Kay Warren is a suggestion for you. But also, I would love you to interview someone from like Newport Beach or someone locally that has a crisis intervention team and what that looks like for them. Like if you get a mental health call or you get someone a DV call out and it's someone's in crisis or families don't know what to do. What does the crisis team do and what is their role and what does that look like?
I love that idea. I have a friend who's a police detective and she's amazing, by the way. Yeah. And she's always introducing, like I'll say, I need to find this person. And she's like, call here. And So I think she could find that source for us.
And then, and also I think like a lot of officers now, the community doesn't realize like half of their calls now are mental health calls or substance abuse calls. And they're taking away from other areas that they could be serving. And if the community learns how that process works, then they know, oh, I'm going to call crisis unit instead of 911. Of course, if someone's in imminent danger.
Yeah, of course. Safety first. Safety first.
So yeah, I would love to see local sheriffs, someone in crisis unit that's helping the community and what that looks like, or Kay Warren. I think would be a great suggestion for you, and you could always have me back.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We'll get that workbook going.
The workbook, and then the party, because I love to plan a party. Thank you again. It means so much that you came here for this. It was really fun to do in person. It's our first one in person. Show the book some more. Yeah.
I don't know if you can see it. Maybe it's backwards.
I'm gonna post this on all of our stuff, right, Banana? We're going to post this and a link to it where you can order your own. Look at that great picture. That is I voted for that picture online. I thought I did, but then I went back and looked at your post and I voted for a dumb one. I was like, why did I vote for this one? This is a better one for sure.
Shout out to my photographer, Heather Robinson.
Yeah, great photographer. So we're going to post all that. Oh, one more thing. Where can people find you online?
Oh, thanks so much for asking. So my website is being built right now. It's in the process of being built, and that's going to be, I already have the site. So that's going to be caretaker-coach.com.
Caretaker-coach.com.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. We'll put that on there too.
And
But
my
you gotta
book,
post us this.
and we'll post the link, of course. Yeah, we'll post the link to my book. That's on Amazon. You can purchase my book on Amazon. And then, of course, I'm on Instagram, and that's at Sharon Bell, Caretaker Coach. And then also on TikTok, that is Caretaker Coach. It's all Caretaker Coach.
Thank you, Sharon. Give me a hug.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
Okay. Thanks, you guys. Bye.
Stating the obvious with New Method Wellness.